We have this one from Simon Meadows, who appears to have submitted under his real name, or at least a name that could be a real name. Thank you. And he asks, are we stuck in a cycle of grass is greener on the other side? When we had the chaos of Boris Johnson and Liz Truss, we were crying out for a return to boring politics. Now we have a government that is 50 shades of beige. There is still disquiet among the populace. Are we hoping that our politicians can deliver some kind of utopia that, by definition, is never deliverable? I liked the brief period of boring politics. I wish we'd had a bit more of that. I don't feel like it's been particularly boring this week. But I do understand the point that he's making, that the Starmer government is not as colourful, perhaps, as previous governments have been. What do you think?
Oh, I mean, I think yes, and I can't completely explain why. You know, I've been sort of asking myself, and other people have been saying, how is it that this new Labour intake and the PLP elected in 2024, but all of them together, including the ones who were MPs beforehand, how is it that this group of people is a completely different group of people to the 2019 Boris Johnson cohort, and yet it's exactly the same in terms of the things they talk about, the way they brief, the frustrations, you know, even, you know, the sort of, the speculation around a leader, but not just that, and the kind of briefing. It's also, we need to pick our coalition, which seats are we going to hold on to after the next election. This kind of febrile atmosphere in Parliament, it feels like it's a bit a cliche to talk about now, but I actually still feel like we haven't quite got to the bottom of it. It's obviously a post-Brexit thing, a social media thing, probably a part of the way we as a media class cover politics. But definitely, you know, it was less than a year into Starmer being Prime Minister that people were talking about who should replace him. And even when he was doing well, people were talking about, you know, who should replace him or who his successor would be. There's a grass is greener on the other side mentality, definitely, among MPs. And I think as a media class, we're all quite interested in who the next leader might be. I think it's you could do a whole podcast series on it, that people don't want to stick with leaders for a long time or political parties for a long time. It's all quite disposable.
Yeah, I wonder if that's to do with, George has written about this, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, the Netflixification of politics. Is that right? That, you know, it's fracturing and there are more choices now, and so we want a party or a leader that fits with a much wider range of what we personally believe.
Yeah, people want to swipe left on Keir Starmer.
Swipe
left, swipe right.
Tinder analogy.
The Tinderification of politics.
I was going to ask Luke if he believed this government was 50 shades of beige.
Well, one of the things that's interesting is that I think if you look at the actual characters at the top of government, it probably is fair to say that they're 50 shades of beige, but the events haven't gotten any less interesting. So with Boris Johnson, there was a series of scandals. Boris Johnson himself is a very colourful character. So when he was dealing with them, it kind of made for great news copy. With Keir Starmer's government, a series of scandals. Starmer himself is, by all accounts, a very uninteresting man. You know, our editor Tom wrote a very long profile of him to try to get to the bottom of, and essentially his conclusion was he's just a very uninteresting man.
Yeah, tried to get something interesting. You know, what's the interesting hinterland, you know, behind or within Keir Starmer, and there doesn't seem to be one other than Arsenal.
He's almost like a sort of odd couple with politics, where he plays the straight guy and all the events in the party in Westminster plays the funny guy around him. And so what's, I think, amusing about Starmer is his inability to really cope with that. And in terms of Netflixification of politics, I do agree with that. I think also we got addicted to scandal, to constant news cycles, to, you know, I think a lot of journalists, their goal is to get someone to resign, right? Like to basically crack a case so big that you take out one of the front bench, maybe even the Prime Minister. People see that as a big sort of feather. And I just think that perhaps that mixed with the low growth, mixed with the chaos of Trump coming in, mixed with like Brexit, all these other conditions came together and have left us a situation where there is, as Andrew Marr called it, a bit of a doom loop in British politics at the moment.
And it's really dangerous, actually, because I was speaking to Luke Trill, head of More in Common, who does lots of polling on this. And one of the things that seems to come up in focus groups and polls a lot, and came up a lot around the time of the election, is people abandoning the Conservatives and voting Labour or supporting Labour, not because they liked Labour, not because they liked Keir Starmer, but because they were just so sick of the chaos, the infighting, the psychodrama, the personality politics, the leadership speculation, and they would rather have a government that they didn't particularly like doing things that they didn't particularly want to happen, but that was doing them in a boring, competent way, and where you could be pretty certain that the Prime Minister, the Chancellor, key ministers were going to continue to be in place. They'd rather have that than constant speculation and who's up, who's down, and who are we making resign this week. And it does feel that in the last couple of months at least, the chaos that infected the Conservative Party has started to infect Labour as well. And when that happens, the people who backed Labour, who didn't particularly want to, but who thought they were the competent option, they're inevitably going to go somewhere else. And the polls show they are looking quite seriously at basically everyone else other than the Conservatives. So it's a dangerous moment as well. But in terms of, is the grass always greener? I feel like if we could have the boring, I completely take Ailbhe's point, it's very, very difficult. But if we could have that period of boring, stable politics, people would quite like it. That would be quite popular.
Oh, but I think every government is aiming for that. You know, they all have these moments where, like, we just have to prove that we can govern well. We can't have any more scandals, you know, no more briefings. When Rishi Sunak replaced Liz Truss.
Boring, yeah.
When Rishi Sunak replaced Liz Truss, that was the thinking. And he just couldn't manage it. And Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, that was actually a lot of their appeal. And they haven't managed it either. So I think it's, you know, that's the dream. The sunlit uplands, Rachel.
That is the utopia that Simon Meadows talks about.